Okay, next we're going to talk about the fundamentals of image size and resolution in Adobe Photoshop. Now, understanding the difference between an image's physical size, its resolution, and how big the file size is can be extremely confusing, but taking the time to try and wrap your head around these things is time very well spent, and it will save you a lot of frustration in the future. The question, how big is that image, seems straightforward, but it really isn't. So the first thing we're going to look at is the physical size of an image. Now, this is the kind of measurement that you could make with a ruler. In other words, how many centimetres or millimetres or inches, whatever your preferred means of measuring an image, that's what we're actually talking about here. How many centimetres is it? How many millimetres is it? That matters if you are going to print your image or you're moving it into another piece of software, for example, Adobe InDesign. Now, let's say we are placing an image on a page in InDesign and the image has a physical size of 60 millimeters by 40 millimeters. The image will import at 60 millimeters by 40 millimeters when displayed at 100% in InDesign. And we will print, and it will print at these exact measurements if printed from Photoshop at 100% scale. All right, so that's its physical size. So if you were to print that image onto a piece of paper, the image that it would appear on the paper is 60 millimeters by 40 millimeters. So that's physical size. Now, image resolution, or the dimensions of a Photoshop image, these are measured in pixels. Now, we mentioned pixels in the previous video, so we know what a pixel is. The number of pixels an image has is determined by the number of pixels per inch and the physical size of the image. Now, you can measure pixels by pixels per centimetre, but I don't know anybody in the world that actually does that. So get used to using pixels per inch. The reason we stick to that basic measurement is because if we suddenly switch to pixels per centimetre, or we get confused and we, instead of making an image 300 pixels per inch and 300 pixels by centimetre, it makes that image much larger than it actually needs to be. So stick with pixels per inch. So we're going to stick with that as a standard. It's used as a standard across all sorts of industries, including advertising, design and print agencies. So suddenly switching to centimetres per inch can result in some unexpected and very troublesome results, believe me. All right, so the next thing we need to address is image size. So you might be thinking, hang on, we've done that when we print an image on a piece of paper, we've said that it will print at that physical size. Well, this isn't the physical size. We're talking about how much digital space the image takes up. This is described in terms of bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, and even gigabytes. So what difference does this make to us? Well, we will start our size and resolution journey here with this image of this iris. So in this example, you're going to see the same picture of this iris presented at the same physical size. Okay, so let's just take a look. So I'm going to go to image and go to image size, and we can see that this image has been created. It's actually 150 millimeters. And the height, it actually says 99.99 millimeters. Now, the reason there's 0.001 of a millimeter missing is because when we're making our images in Photoshop, we can't always guarantee a whole round number because of how big a pixel is. Okay, so that's another question. How big is a pixel? Well, you're about to see that pixel size is very variable. Okay, so the images that you're going to see are all the same physical size. Now, the slight difference in those sizes, as I've said, is about how big the pixels are. Okay, so in this dialog box, you can see the physical size is shown here, 150 by near enough 100 millimeters. And you can also see that the image size, now this is what we're talking about in terms of how much space it takes up in the digital world. You can see up here it says it's 107.8 M. Now that M stands for megabytes, and you can see that the physical dimensions here, this px here is telling you that we're measuring in pixels. So we have 5,315 pixels across the top of this image. So from over here to over here there is 5,315 pixels, and from top to bottom there is 3,543 pixels. Now if I do a little quick sum on my calculator, so I'm going to just tap in there 5,315 times 3,543, and that will give us about 18.8 million pixels. Okay, to be precise, 18,831,045 pixels in that image. So that's a lot of pixels. Okay, so hence it is quite large in size. So the image size is large. This is what we would call a big image. You can see from here these are quite large numbers. But the physical size is 150 millimeters by 100 millimeters, or near enough. Okay, so let's just have a look at this image. So here we go. I'm just going to zoom in, and you can see I've zoomed in, and if we just check what we've zoomed in to, the ratio down in this corner here, you can see it's we're now zoomed into 168.95% of its original size. Okay. And you can see its physical size next to it, 150 by 99.99 mil, and it's 900 pixels per inch. Okay, so we can zoom in, and I still can't really see any of those pixels. Okay, and just there they are. Okay, all of a sudden there they are. We can see those pixels, and we can carry on zooming in, and you can see they are tiny. Okay. So that is our very high resolution image. Okay, and next we're going to look at the exact same image at 72 pixels per inch. So let's just have a look at this. Now, if you didn't see the difference, there's the high res version, and this is the low resolution version. Now I have done this in quite an extreme way, so you can see the pixels very, very clearly here. And let's just go back to our image menu and image size, and let's see what's going on. Now you can see that the physical size, I know it says 149.93, but that is literally 0.07 of a millimeter short. And again, this is to do with the size of those pesky pixels. So it is still 150 by 100 millimeters, or near enough, same physical size. So if we were to print this, it would print at the same size as the other original high-res version. Now you can see here that the image size, this is its digital space it's taking up, is only 704.7 kilobytes. Okay, so that's much, much smaller than the high resolution version that we looked at before. And you can see that the dimensions are 423 pixels by just 238 pixels. So let's see how many pixels we have in this image. So 425 by 283 is just 120,275 pixels. So that's way, way, way fewer pixels than we had previously. Okay, now if we are going to be viewing this image online at this kind of size, the lack of pixels isn't really important because we can't see the detail. This is what we'd be looking at. So it would be fine. It would be a fine size to use. All right. However, if we were viewing it at this size, it's not enough pixels. And you can see down here that we are currently viewing this to fill the screen at 772.44%. Okay, so you can see the same physical size that we had before, and we are now at just 72 pixels per inch. All right. So I've got a third document here, and you can see this one's titled Upscaled Iris 900 DPI, except it isn't. At the moment, it's exactly the same as the 72 DPI version. So if I flick between them, you won't see any change at all. All right. So here we are on this new version. So I've just saved it under a different name, and I'm going to make a fundamental change to it. Now, a lot of people think, oh, you can make a high-res image from a low-res image. You really can't. A high-resolution image has far more information in it that's original, okay? What we can't do is bring that original information back. Once it's discarded, it's gone forever. So let's see what happens if we give this image more pixels, and we can do that quite easily. This is called upscaling. Okay, so I'm going to go to my image size menu again, and we can see what we've got here. I can't change the physical size because I want to keep it at that same physical size for the demonstration to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the resolution. So if we have a look at the high res version, so I've just switched back to the high resolution version for a second, and you can see that my resolution was 900 pixels per inch. Okay, so I'm going to go to this upscaled version, or what is going to be the upscaled version. I go to the image size, and I'm going to change the resolution to 900 pixels per inch, and there we have it. Okay, you can see we've got exactly the same image size as we had on our high-res version. Okay, so we've got this enormous image now that's 107.5 megabytes in size. Okay, the physical size of the document is not going to alter. I'm just going to fit that on the screen for you, and you can see that it is different to the low-res version. Okay, it's kind of got a smoothness to it that it didn't have in the low-res version. But it is not the same as the high-resolution version. So if I just go back to that high-res version, and if I just zoom in a little bit on this flower here. So I'm just slightly viewing this just slightly over 100%. Okay, in fact, that's 100%. And then we'll do the same with this. We'll just view this at 100%. Okay, and there you can quite clearly see the difference. We cannot put quality back into an image. So the number of pixels an image has isn't always a marker of quality. General rule of thumb, it is. But if we take a low-res version and just simply add more pixels, that's viewing this image at 100%. So that's just how tiny it is. Okay, so irrespective of its print size, that would print at 150 millimeters by 100 millimeters, as would this, and as would this. Okay, so I'm hoping that will make things a little bit clearer for you guys when it comes to talking about image size. It is confusing. It is a little bit of a mind melt for you, but it is worth trying to get your head around it. So you can take a low-res image and you can make it a little bit bigger. And for the most part, Photoshop does do a good job of trying to make up those missing bits. Okay, so there we are. That's the image that Photoshop has kind of made up, and that's the original. Okay, so image optimization. There are videos talking about image optimization, which will talk about making images the right size for the task in hand. So for example, if you're preparing an image to be used on a website, and on that website it's going to be used at a particular size, it is far better to upload an image at a suitable resolution for a screen at the size required, the physical size required, because then you're not expecting your viewer to spend time waiting for excessively large images to upload or download. Okay. When we optimize for print, again, the image has to have enough quality for it to print smoothly at the size required. So that's all image optimization is. Okay, it's making the right size image, and sometimes we might have several versions of the same image for different purposes. Okay, because once you've scaled it down, scaling it back up is not always pretty.